Welcome to another episode of Navigating Life with Coach Khloz. Today I have another DOP, a daughter of promise, in the building with me. Welcome, Tyisha Jenkins. Hey, girl.
Hi. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited that you agreed to come on and just share your story. It is not one that is up here where I am, but the overcoming. I'm excited for you to share your story today with us. I wanted to just pause for a second and pass the mic to you and ask that you just introduce yourself to the Navigating Life podcast audience.
Well, first of all, thank you, Coach Lowe, for having me on. I'm super excited about the opportunity. My name is Tyisha Jenkins, like you said, and I am an educator. I am a mother. I am a friend. I'm a sister. And I am recently, and just proudly to say, I am a daughter of promise, a newly published author, and just super excited about this journey. I'm a former I am active in my church, and just really just I mean, not a whole lot, but yeah, that's just me.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. I want to ask you what made you we're doing the women's devotional together
Mhm.
called Promise. It's a women devotional, 17 states in the US, 4 countries, 130 authors. We happen to be two of them. What
Mhm.
was it that when this opportunity came to you, what was it that made it stand out and you want to share your story in this season?
Well, for me, Coach Lowe, it was just during this time that we're in this pandemic. I have to say that literally every day that I was logging on to social media, just, posting my prayers that I do daily, I was noticing that people were losing loved ones. There was so much loss. I mean, it was either to COVID, either something tragic, or just, people were just expiring daily. And so for me, my heart was just heavy to see the
Mhm.
people that were experiencing loss. And I was like, my Lord, I know exactly what they're going through. I know the pain that they are experiencing in this moment. And so just seeing how much people were going through really just caused my heart to just say, you know what? God made me a promise. God healed me and helped me during the times that I suffered loss. And I just wanted to share part of my promise or part of my story to say that there is healing, that there is, overcoming after loss. And so that's really where it came from, just the opportunity to share God's promise to me and how it came to fruition.
Isn't that awesome though, how there are different seasons in our lives where God show us what to do and how to share, and like it is, the time is now. But
Yes.
it's like the time is of the essence, and this is a story that you had the ability to share in many different seasons, because
Mhm.
this is not something that just happened, but God prepared you and he allowed you to go through a thing, and he healed you and you walked through a process for such a time as this, to be
Mhm.
able to share with other people. I just delight in that. Like, that is just so amazing
Mhm.
to me to know of God's goodness like that. So we're in your devotional, like you just talked about. You talk about the loss and the grief of losing your mom in 2005, your brother in 2006, and finally your father in 2014.
Mhm.
That was a lot, not to mention other losses of um family members that were not your immediate family members, but the 1 and 2 generations removed that were also
Mhm.
passing away.
Yeah.
So um, tell us, please share your story, because I believe that this is the greater part of what people need in your
Mhm.
story, is just how do you overcome? You lost your mom. That's a huge an important relationship. You
Mhm.
lose your younger brother, and then you lose your father. Let's talk about it.
Mm. Whew, let's see. Well, with my mom started to kind of become ill around 2000. My mom abused drugs for quite some time, and after years of drug abuse and not taking care of your body the way you should, you start to show effects of that. And my mom suffered her first stroke in 2000, and of course she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. Then her kidneys started to give her trouble, and so it was just declining. Her health was declining, and it was really tough. I had just had my son um, in 2004 when she really started. I had just started teaching, so I was a brand new teacher, and it was really hard on my family because me being the second oldest, but I was the oldest here in Houston at the time, and my younger siblings really didn't, just young, in school still, in high school, and it was very tough on them, tough on us. So my grandmother and my aunts, they came to Houston and they got her, and they were taking care of her because she actually had to get dialysis 3 days a week, and it just wasn't a. It was hard on everybody. So my mom ended up just not. She, for lack of better terms, she just deteriorated over time. And poor thing, she just, got sick and really couldn't recover. And the last time we went to see her in the hospital, because she had been in, back and forth in the hospital for some time while she, between 2000 and 2005, she would go to the hospital, because blood pressure was too high, or, just for different reasons, but she would always come home. So we would, oh, well, mama coming home tonight, or we got to go get her from the hospital. They ready to discharge her. Well, this time we got a call, and she was in Lubbock, Texas, because my family, Abilene, and that's where she was staying. Well, they had to life flight her to Lubbock. So we all got together, my dad, my three brothers, and my younger sister, and my son. At the time, he was like a couple of months. And we drove down to Lubbock. And I'll never forget, she couldn't open her eyes, but she could talk, but she really couldn't see us. And I was just, talking to her, and she was like, "Where's that baby? Go get that baby." And I was like, "Mama, they won't let me bring him back here." And she said, "I don't care. You go get my grandbaby." And I was like, "Okay." So I snuck him in there to see her, and she was just touching on him, just feeling on him. And she couldn't see him, but she wanted to, you know, just be, be in his presence. Right, there you go. Exactly. And so we went back to the hotel that night, and I just prayed and prayed and prayed. And so we had to go back to Houston. And so we were driving, and I'll never forget, I just had this feeling. I was like, I don't think we should be leaving. I don't think we should be leaving. But my dad had to get back to work. I had to get back to work. It's just kind of one of those things where you just don't know when it's the last time. But something in my heart was just saying, this doesn't feel right. So you get home, and I have all, just scared for the phone to ring, different things like that. And one night around midnight, I got the call, and they said, "Miss Jenkins, we did all we could, but we couldn't save her." And so that's the hardest thing, is to have to call the rest of your family and tell them, what happened. So that happened with my mom. Oh, excuse me. And so then a year later, my youngest brother, his name is Maurice. We call him Baby John. That was just his, nickname as a baby. just kind of going through some things that we never really were able to put a finger on, but we all kind of guessed. But he did uh, commit suicide. That's what they ruled it as. We were fortunate to have him for 16 days after he actually shot himself. Um, he was in critical condition, but it was one of those things. It was day by day, going to the hospital, being by his side, talking to him. There were days I forgot to eat. I think I lost almost 25 pounds just in that 16 16 days or so, or, up until the funeral, different things of that nature. But it was kind of the same thing. I was the one that they called to say, Miss Jenkins, we need y'all to come to the hospital and probably say your final goodbyes. One of my brothers was like, we're not saying goodbye. We're going to fight. He's going to fight. We're going to do everything we can. And it was really hard because he wasn't ready to let him go. And I totally understood that. And so I said, well, whatever you want to do, I'm going to, support you. If and so we were at the hospital and the doctors were just like, there's nothing else we can do at this point. And so I had to tell my dad. My dad was devastated, just, didn't know where he went wrong as a parent. Remind, he just lost a wife a year ago or a year before. And so it was just, oh my gosh, it was just so much. We blamed each other. I mean, I remember literally getting to arguments with my siblings because we were so mad and so angry that this happened. And we blamed ourselves. I remember my brother was at my house a week before. And I said, if I would have just let him stay, and this wouldn't have happened. And I blamed myself for a very, very, very long time. And we blamed, go ahead.
So why do you think that you guys begin to blame yourselves and one another?
Because I think naturally, because you don't want to blame the person that did it. Like I didn't want to blame my brother because I didn't believe that he was capable of such a thing. So it's your fault because it's not his. We know Baby John wouldn't do this to himself. Well, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I didn't do enough as a big sister. Well, maybe, my brother, he was going away to college at the time. And him and Baby John were like only a year and a half, 2 years apart. I mean, they were really, really close. And I remember him being so angry and so upset. And he said, it's y'all's fault. Why didn't y'all watch him? Why didn't y'all watch him? He said, I shouldn't have went to college. And he blamed him. He internalized it and blamed himself. So I think it's just a misplaced anger. You don't know how to process when somebody takes their life. So somebody has to be to blame because there's no way Baby John would do this. And there's no way that this could happen to our family. There's no way our little brother took his own life. And so you don't know how to accept it. And I think sometimes when you don't know how to accept a thing, that's the first thing to do is to blame others,
To blame and then to deny, like you said, you denied that it was possible that he would make his decision. Now, let me ask you this today. What do you believe? Do you believe that suicide is it's a active decision?
Just based on me knowing my brother, I believe, and I don't believe in my heart that my brother had a mental illness. I don't, because there were other circumstances surrounding the situation. So it wasn't like this was something that had happened before, there was some specifics, that kind of led to this. But I truly believe when the enemy puts a thought into your mind and you don't know how to fight it, you don't know how to battle that thing, you don't seek the help that you need. Some people don't even know or realize that help is available.
Yeah.
Some people don't know how to go to the people that they love out of shame, to say, hey, I'm having these thoughts.
Yeah.
Hey, something is wrong and I don't know what's going on, or I'm afraid. I'm scared. This is going on right now in my mind. I'm afraid this is going to happen. And I think that there's a stigma to that. People don't know how to process that. My brother was 21 years old and he had never really gone through anything major. Losing my mom and was definitely major, and a couple other circumstances. But I think it was just a matter of when he thought that that was a possibility or that that was an option for him, not knowing how to battle that just kind of took over. This is your only way out. This is what you have to do. And I think that once that is planted and you don't know how to defeat it, the enemy will remind you, no, you have to. No, this. So that's what I truly believe. The enemy will take over because that's his job. That's what the word says he comes to do.
To
Steal, kill, and destroy.
Okay, so when I'm thinking about this, when I'm thinking about a young man, 21 years old, who loses his mom, he needs his mom. So I just wonder, like when I told you when you originally shared with me, I was just really wowed by your story. And so I wondered, I'm saying to myself, okay, so he had lost his mother only a year prior. That's not a whole lot of time to grieve a mother's love, a mother's everything that she had given to him. And so I mean, I'm not here to we're not here to try to figure this out or anything, but I just, for the sake of the audience, I always want to get as much as we possibly can in terms of information, because these are places that real people, just like your family, there will be other families. This is why you chose to share your story. People are experiencing this thing in the daily. On a daily, people are experiencing these things and people don't know how to navigate them. So, that is not a situation that I have personally had to deal with, thank God. However, it is all around me. And people are losing family members and close friends by their loved ones inflicting pain on themselves. But I just believe that sometimes people are overwhelmed in a way, and sometimes they feel invisible in a way that other people don't even understand. And so it's unfortunate the way that the enemy approach people, and they can become overwhelmed like that. And sometimes we feel like, well, everyone else is busy and nobody can see me. Everybody is busy with their own life, with their own stuff. And that was why I was asking, why do you guys believe that you started to blame one another and then blame yourselves? Was it because, everybody was just living life? You really can't apologize for that, right?
Right. And I think just in the moment, definitely everybody was living their lives, but just in the moment when it happens, because once, you are when you see your loved one fighting for their life, somebody has to be to blame for this, and that's kind of, it was just sad. And I think, like you said, the denial had a lot to do with it, but just not knowing how to process it. I think when you're angry, when you're upset about something and something doesn't go your way, we usually find something to, we have to blame it on somebody. And so I think that was just a natural reaction to just the hurt that we were experiencing.
Yeah. I'm just so sorry when I began to just think about just how you lost them back to back, and then your dad. So finally it was your dad, and so he ended up getting sick. So if you want to share.
Okay, so my dad, oh gosh, best friend, I was a daddy's girl, and what happened is just my dad called me like almost every day, called me, he told me, he said, Daddy been having some issues with, with his stomach. My stomach been bothering me. I'm like, okay, Daddy, well, make sure you're watching what you eat and different things like that. And he's like, yeah, I just feel like I can't, I've always feel full. And I'm like, okay. So time went by, and my friend passed away, one of my high school friends. I was at her services. Just so happened it's in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. So I went by my dad's house. I hadn't gone in a couple because I was a coach at the time. My son was young and just super, super busy. Well, I went by the house and I saw him. I walked in the door, and my dad's 6'2", easily 200 and 200 pounds maybe. And when I saw him, I was like, Daddy, I mean, so thin, so thin. I couldn't believe it. And I just took a deep breath and I sat down, and I was like, Daddy, what's going on? He was like, well, I told you, I've been having issues with my stomach. I said, Daddy, something not right. And I just started crying. And he said, don't cry. I said, Daddy, something not right. And he just, he he just said, Daddy, all right, Daddy, all right. And I said, Daddy, something not right. You too little. So long story short, I just said, Daddy, I'm making an appointment. I need your insurance card. I need all your information because we need to make a doctor's appointment. And so we did. And so we started the process and went to, his primary care physician. She kind of looked at some stuff and she said what she thought it might be. But then of course we need to do, I think it was the MRI, I believe, just all these different tests. And so that was in November-ish, December doctor visit. And you're always waiting for the calls back to see what they're saying. And so they called me. I was in the middle of a basketball game that I was coaching, and my phone rang, and I knew it was the doctor. And she called. She said, do you have time to talk? I said, yes. I had another coach, continue coaching the game. And she said, we found a mass in his lungs and then in his liver, I believe. And so I took a deep breath and I said, what does that mean? And she said, I can't tell you, but it looks like cancer. I'm gonna send you to an oncologist. And so called my best friend at the time and I said, hey, she worked at MD Anderson, one of the largest medical, cancer medical treatment centers here. And so she said, you need to take FMLA, apply for it right now. And I'm glad she told me that. When my mom got sick, I didn't even know that was an option. I was such a new teacher. Yeah. And so I applied for it. Once they signed, they approved it. And I mean, I was not going to miss a beat with him because I missed it with my mom. I regretted it. But I said, you know what? I'm just not. I have to drop my son off. I have to do whatever I have to do, but I need to be by my dad's side every second of this particular journey. And it was tough. To see him go through what he went through, it was very, very hard. The first doctor said, you guys need to prepare for hospice. And I was just like, whoa, and I looked at my daddy when he said it, and my dad was just kind of like, kind of shook his head. And I immediately stopped going to that doctor. We found another doctor. And the doctor told me, and told my dad, he said, let me tell you, we are going to do our best to prolong your life as long as possible, but we're not going to be able to save it. You have a very aggressive cancer and it's in the lungs, and but we're going to do all we can to prolong your life. And he laid out the treatment plan, and chemotherapy was the option, and to see my dad, lose his hair, so thin, he could only really drink Ensures, I tried to cook for him for that Christmas. He couldn't really eat. It was a journey, but I was really grateful to be there for him. Yeah. Oh, I mean, so grateful. And it was tough. Same thing, me and my siblings, we kind of had moments, because that was the third round of such a major loss. And by this time, I think we were probably angry with life at this point, pretty resentful. And it was easy again to be upset at each other, not knowing how to navigate. Hey, we need each other, embrace each other. It was tough. And so he passed on. He was in critical condition, just everything was breathing for him, working for him. And my sister stayed with him, and she decided to let him go on her birthday, March 29th. And so, you celebrate her birthday, then I always remember, oh, daddy, passed away on this day. So I think that's a special thing for her and for him. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Wow. That is a lot. And I just I applaud your strength, and your tears never compromise your strength. I learned that from the first lady. Um your tears just never compromise your strength. And so I applaud your strength. I applaud the joy that the Lord has restored in your life.
Yes,
And
thank you.
and I know that it is the Lord, because you never got counseling. What in the world?
Well, I tell you what, I didn't. There was a time when I felt myself losing control, just totally developing anxiety, just losing control. And I had one of my friends say, "Hey, you probably need to go talk to someone." And I did. So a counselor, and I went and had a session with her, and she just kind of talked to me about controlling my controllables, because I was so upset at the time that I didn't feel like my siblings were helping me.
Mhm.
And one of them, specifically, but she explained things and kind of made things clear. But I did talk to her in that moment, but just to seek counseling and grief counseling, I didn't. And like you said, it was nothing but God. But in that moment when my dad first got sick and I was running back and forth and doing all this, I did have to go sit down with somebody, because I thought I was gonna lose my mind.
Yeah. And it
Mhm.
is, it's really, it's a weight. I just cremated my granddad in 2019, in
Oh wow.
February
I'm sorry to hear that.
2019. And so I I I understand so much about that. In 2009,
Mhm.
my grandmother came here. She from Chicago. She came
Mhm.
here with me and my aunt here in Dallas, and
Mhm.
she died in 3 weeks. She
Oh
came here
wow.
to die, but she had permission. She had
Mhm.
permission. She was very ill, and much like your mom, when we women just wear capes. I don't know where that
Mhm.
came from. I don't
Mhm.
know, but and African American women in particular, I would venture
Mhm.
to say, we have a tendency to be strong in a way that almost seems supernatural. And
Yeah.
we will go that extra mile. And my grandmother, she just seemed like God just kept resurrecting her. She
Oh
would
wow.
go down and she would come back up,
Mhm.
fighting. So,
Mhm.
but this time it wasn't that way. And
Mhm.
she had always said that she would never come here. So when she decided to come, I was a little suspect, because
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, why all of a sudden would you want to change your mind? But it is just interesting how when you lose the people that are closest to you, just the different things, a lot of time you're in survival mode. So you're handling all the business, you're making all of these decisions, and you forget to self-care.
Oh my gosh, you hit the nail on the head. I with my mom, I had to take care of everything. With my brother, there was more help, but it was, my sister at the time was 15, I think, or really close to that age when my mom died. But you're so right, because once that family member passes on, now it becomes business.
Yeah.
How are we going to handle this? How are we going to handle this? And it's like you don't have that time to grieve. But I can tell you this, Coach Lowe, there was a time when my brother was in the hospital, And I'll never forget, I prayed and prayed and I cried and I cried. And I said, God, I want my brother back. Bring him back. That's all I prayed for every night. Bring him back, Lord. Bring him back. Bring him back. And he said, what if I don't? And I said, And so just that kind of rocked me. And I was like, wow. And he said, I need you to pray for my will, not for what you want. Pray for my will.
That's
And
powerful.
and he said, because if I bring him back, he's not going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys handle, if I bring him back, can you handle the new baby John? Because he's not going to be the same. And I said, wow. Because all you want is to bring him back. That is the natural. You want your loved one back.
Yeah.
But God told me he's not going to be the same. So prepare yourself. He said, prepare yourself for loss. If I take him back, first of all, he belongs to me. So if I take him back, he's mine anyway. So prepare yourself for that. He said, but then prepare yourself for if I allow him to stay with you guys, he's not going to be the same. So in that moment, I had to shift my prayers. And I said, Lord, not my will, but yours. And I said, whatever your will is with my brother. So that also, God said, I also need you to pray for your daddy. I need you to pray for your sister, because that hurt that you're feeling, they're feeling it too. But
Yeah.
I need you to pray for them. And I just, so I like you said, that you're self-care is important, but sometimes God will position you to be that person that's standing in the gap for others. So in that moment, I stopped praying for myself. God made me strong in that moment and say, I need you to be praying for your brothers and your sisters and your dad, because this is tough. This is a hard one. So I need you to be that strong one. They were strong too, but I clearly remember him, talking to me and telling me what he needed me to do.
That is so awesome. As I'm listening to you, I'm just thinking, when God have those intimate conversations with us, he is often sharing wisdom with us in a way that we would never know otherwise. And
Yes,
that
absolutely.
clear, succinct instruction really helps you to understand that God don't always heal our loved ones on this side of heaven. So sometimes it is better that they go home, because earth is not our home, heaven is.
That's
And
right.
so sometimes the Lord has to bring those that he loves so dearly, bring them home. Life as he knew it, God told you it's not going to be the same. So could you really handle that, looking at him
Exactly.
suffering in the day-to-day? Could you
Exactly.
handle the responsibility that would come? And I think that those are the hard, the challenges that we face when we are up against saying, when the doctors come and they say, this is we've done all we could. But
Right.
God's will be done is
That's
really what we need to be saying, because I think that a lot of the time what people are saying is that when people declare that they will believe the report of the Lord, right? And the what they really desire in their heart is just that God will bring them back so that they can commune with them, right?
Right.
But that is not always what happens. That's not
Right.
always God's will. And so
Yeah.
I just applaud you and your family's ability to navigate that process, though it was challenging, though you had to do the things that you needed to do to get yourself in a space where, because you were saying that things were kind of spiraling out of control, it was just a lot. So you had to talk to someone. That is excellent, but you didn't get grief counseling. You didn't get ongoing counseling. What would you change that if you had to do it again? Would you change it? Do you see that there is a need? Share with myself and the audience of Navigating Life podcast. Help us to understand what you would have changed differently
Mhm.
about getting yourself more help and more
Mhm.
self-care for yourself so that you could have been stronger or what have you. And then help us to understand how or why you would advise someone to do whatever you think is best in terms of that particular decision.
Well, I would absolutely tell the listening audience, I would definitely seek counseling. If I could do it all over again, I would absolutely have sought out a counselor, a grief counselor, to speak to, because really at the time, counselors are available. You've heard it. I'm an educator. I've heard that. But at the time, when you're moving through your everyday life, when you have a child that you have to take care of, sometimes you do forget that
Mhm.
there is a healing, that there is a process that needs to take place. But also, there is part of you that wants to just be. I just wanted to just be. And if I would have gotten the counseling that I needed, I really truly believe that the anger, the guilt, um, and just even the questioning of why my mom, why my brother, why my dad probably wouldn't have happened as frequently as it did. I grew to become a very angry person. I became very depressed. My depression turned into anxiety. I didn't know any of those things truly existed. I heard about them. Oh no, I'm not depressed. What does that look like? You think it's laying in your bed
Right.
all day. That's not what depression looks like. Anxiety, I'm thinking people going around shaking. No, that's not what it looks like. Sometimes it's just the inability to make decisions. It's not your mind not resting. So those things manifested into my life because I didn't get the proper care and counseling that I did. And I would venture to say, Coach Lowe, that that's something that I am still going to do.
That's good.
2005, 2006, 2014, there's still some healing that needs to take place. And so I know for me that is something that I still need to do. So I will definitely be seeking counseling. Let me tell you why. It's because we think a lot of times that we can navigate certain things on our own because we're taught, as young kids, get up, stop crying, you'll be all right. It's not going to last forever. That is the
Superman
truth,
syndrome. That's what it
right?
is.
Hmm. But we don't have the tools. There are people who have gone to school, that have studied, that know techniques that you can use to calm your thoughts, to make you think about things differently. So absolutely, I would encourage anyone um, to seek out professional help, because you don't know what you need until you get it sometimes. And so
You really don't know what you don't know until you find
exactly.
out.
That's it. That's it.
But so this is the other thing that I did want to talk to you about is community. How
Hmm.
big was your community in that season? Because what I hear you saying is that, so I like the idea that you reached out to your friend who worked for MD
Hmm.
Anderson. And so I thought that that was just phenomenal. However, there were still other things, right? That needed to be um there were still other things that needed to be done and be addressed. So where was your community? Where was your support system of people that would come alongside you? How important do you see community? Because now I know that you have a large community. So,
Thank you.
and so how does that look today when looking back?
Hmm.
How important or what kind of difference would a community of supporters would have made for you?
Well, I can't say that I didn't have a community. I really, really did. When I look back, I can, oh gosh, Coach Lowe, when my mom passed, I was a young teacher, and didn't have very much money saved at the time, and I'll never forget, I went to leave to go out of town for my mom's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other best friends at the time, she handed me an envelope, and I said, "What is this?" She said, "Well, just open it when you get time." And my school at that time, they had raised over $3,000 to help me towards my mom's funeral. We didn't have it, but
Wow.
she sent an email behind my back, and people donated. Some of the people didn't even know who I was,
Mm-hmm.
but that became my family, my extended family. Um, just the love and the thoughtfulness and consideration behind that. And so that I had, the community, my friends, my best friends, I have my cousins, my aunts, my dad's sister, my aunt in Abilene. So I had the family in the community. It's just kind of
But was it that you had to lead everything, and or were you delegating the responsibility at all, or did you feel like you had to have your hand on it?
well, Coach Lowe, I was the oldest.
Right.
And it was kind of one of those things that at the time, when my mom passed away, I was 25.
Uh-huh.
And everyone after that is increments of 2. So 23, 21, 19, 17 years old,
Right.
besides my older sister been living in Florida since she was 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
So it's one of those things. At that moment, I was the oldest. I was the more responsible one. I was, just kind of able to make those decisions, knowing how to navigate certain things, And so my younger sister, 17 years old, she's trying to do the best she could. She couldn't manage, planning a funeral and, different things
No,
like that.
so what I'm speaking to is your community, like your supporters, like they were younger than you. So that would not have really been um,
Hmm.
who you would have looked to. You would have been more of a supporter to them, right?
Right.
So I'm talking about like the people that you mentioned. You mentioned your aunts, you mentioned some of your friends, some of your best friends, your cousins. So
Hmm.
for those people, were they kind of hands on supporting you through the planning, kind of coaching you through the process? Well, this
Hmm.
is how I'm gonna take this responsibility, and I'm gonna be over this for the repast, or so there are different
Yeah.
things. So how did
So if I can kind of paint a picture a little bit, my family helped whatever way they could, but it was almost kind of like my dad and my mom. It was just us, our family here in Houston. Like we have family,
right?
but my dad's side lives in majority of his family lives in Fort Worth, Texas. So
Okay,
his sister. So then my mom's family, her family lives in Abilene. So while we have family here, my brothers and my sisters and my mom and dad, we were our immediate family here. So that it was kind of so everybody pitched in, but everybody's kind of pitching in from a distance as much as they
got
could.
it,
So it
got
was
it,
kind
got
of one of those things. So my friends here, and my friends that was my community. My church at the time, my sorority sisters, and just really my close friend, my best friend, Tara. Her family was my family, and they made sure we had food to eat. Hey, did you feed Jordan? Different things like that. So definitely had the community, but when you kind of had a close knit family to where for a long time this is your unit,
yeah.
that's kind of what it was for us.
Got it.
Hmm.
Got it. So I wanted to bring that out, because for the person who may be listening and they feel overwhelmed with
Hmm.
the responsibility of being the point person, if you will, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's very difficult to carry that weight alone. And you do need, like in the Bible, Aaron's and hers that were the supporters of Moses. You know,
Right.
keep his hands held up, to keep you strong, to make sure that you're not missing the meals, right? To
Right.
make sure that, okay, so I can't make any decisions. You're going to make all of decisions, but I'm going to take you everywhere you need to go. So driving will not have to be an issue for you.
Right.
I'm
Right.
gonna, this person is, I'm gonna do the make sure that the family have food every night. You know what I'm saying? So everybody can kind of come together and be a support. And I just think that these things are so important because, like you mentioned in the opening of your story in the book, everyone will find themselves in this space. You cannot live life without meeting death. It is
Yeah.
impossible.
Yes.
So I wanted to just make sure that not even to really say anything about what it is that happens specifically with you, but to help other people understand how important community is, right?
And as important as community is, Coach Lowe, you have everyone, and I did people calling, people this. I can tell you, just lack in terms of just being kind of young and not knowing. I didn't know what to ask for help for. I
That
didn't know that when you don't know how to navigate, all you know that loss just happened. You know, and it was my mama. I got to take care of it. You don't know what to ask for help. So, and it's okay to ask for help. I think sometimes when you are processing hurt, everything else that comes along with it is just kind of second. It's just
yeah,
like,
for sure.
I'm not making that very clear, but at the time, I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't know how to, it's not that I didn't know how to ask, I just didn't know what I
You
needed
didn't know
help
how
with.
to do it. You didn't, I mean, this was your first rodeo and you were 25 years old. So you don't have all the answers. And that is why I was saying, who are the supporters? Because someone that maybe, even if it was a friend, y'all could have been the same age, but if they had already experienced that and were willing to come alongside of you to say, hey, and so I even speak to the audience to just say, if you are listening and you have lost a loved one and don't know what to do, right?
Right.
Make sure that you ask for help.
That's
Ask
right.
someone that may be older than you. Ask someone that may have experienced this already, right? Because this is where we learn. This is where we get support. This is where we get to share what we know to help someone else's load be a little bit lighter for their
Absolutely.
experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an amazing experience, and I'm sitting here and I'm just communing with you and I'm looking at your face and you look so beautiful, and I'm just
Thank
like, you know, you don't look like what you've been through.
Whew.
Not
Thank
even
God.
yes, thank God, you know.
Well, I got makeup on and, a little lipstick and stuff like
Oh,
that.
girl,
So.
and you look good, so we're not gonna take nothing away from any of that.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes, that is it, period. So let's dive here because I talked about women can have a tendency to be um superhero-ish. So if that is a word, right? So we can have a tendency to want to put on a cape and we go over and beyond the call of duty. When I did your pre-interview, you shared a very intimate story with me about your mom. And if I had ever felt like somebody, okay, now I'm tearing up. So if I had ever felt like there was someone in a situation and she was my shero, it was your mom. Like I was like, she was a boss when you talking about a woman making power moves. And for someone else, they may not even understand the depth of her love or the height or the width or the breadth. It was so amazing what she did for her children to protect y'all. You mentioned that your mom was addicted and your mom made a decision to make a power move to make sure that her children were not. Please share with the audience your story. I know, girl, because that just, I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
So, you know, the day that you called me for the pre-interview, I was just full. We had released Promise, and we were getting you know, so much positive feedback, so much encouragement, so many calls, so many texts. And I mean, I cried literally all day just because I was so overwhelmed with joy and just so grateful that God had given me the opportunity. So I'm super thankful for the visionary Dr. Ellison, you know, who, you know, gave us this opportunity. But what God birthed through her. Well, I say, Coach Lowe, that day, all of us wrote about different promises that God has kept in our life. And mine is a promise through pain, and how God, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, to prosper you, to not harm you, to give you a hope in a future. I didn't think that I had a hope in a future for some time after I lost, you know, my mom and dad. But I can tell you this, growing up and both of your parents are addicted to crack cocaine, you don't have a lot of hope. You may pretend to. You don't know what your future is going to look like sometimes over the weekend when you have seen certain things. But Coach Lowe, my mother, I'll never forget when I kind of discovered that she was on drugs. I told my siblings, I said, hey, I think after doing the DARE program at, at school, I was like, I think mom and daddy on drugs, and they were like, what? Yeah, I'm like, I've noticed some things that they were talking about at school, And so, long story short, my mom was very candid, and, she was talk about different things. And she would always talk about her time that she spent in prison. And it just bothered me because I'm like, why would she bring that up, or why would she say that? She never allowed us to bring things home. Don't bring nothing home that don't belong to you. People say you steal. And so I asked her, I said, Mama, why did you go to prison? She said, well, I stole some things, and sold them, right? What they call boosting,
Right.
So I'm like, okay. She said, but I tell you what, she said, your mama was on drugs very bad. My mom was addicted to heroin, and my father, and, a couple other family members. But she said, when I found out that I was pregnant with you, she said that was the only way I was going to have a healthy child, is if. And this is what they called it back in the day, I guess, that if I took a fall. That's what she said. And I was like, huh? She said, well, if I went to jail, that's the only way I knew I was going to be able to birth a healthy child. And I wasn't able to really process that as a kid. And I was like, okay, why would you go to jail? Like, to have a healthy baby. Well, I didn't understand drugs.
Right.
I didn't understand what it was to carry a child for 9 months and to take care of your baby. And so my mom
passed the addiction on to them.
My mom made that sacrifice. And I said that day we were getting all those calls, getting all of those, everything. And I said, man, this was a promise my mama made to me in the womb. That God gave her enough strength, because I couldn't imagine prison. I don't know, and so for her to make that sacrifice because she wanted her children to be okay, because it wasn't just me. She did the same for my siblings. She did my siblings after me, 3 after me. And Coach Lo, I think back, I'm like, you had to really be battling with addiction, to get out, to get pregnant again, and then to go back. And so I just think back to God already knew in that time that he had a plan, for my life, for my siblings' lives. And just like we spoke, Coach Lowe, when you called me for the pre-interview, and I was just telling you how excited and how just blessed I was to be a part of this process. It was just kind of in that moment that just the Holy Spirit had downloaded to me that your mom kept a promise to you. Like, this is, although she's gone, although she went through everything that she went through, she was already praying and covering you before you were even formed in her womb. And I was just telling you how my mom made the decision to go to prison in order to not be exposed to drugs or use drugs while she was pregnant. And so as a kid, I used to hate to hear her talk about her going to prison. And I was like, why would she talk about that? Well, she was, of course, trying to teach us in the process, but in that, it showed what type of woman she was and how much she loved her children, to make such a huge sacrifice to say, I'm willing to sacrifice my freedom in order for my kids to be free, basically.
Yeah.
Free from any, disabilities, free from addiction, free from anything that could have harmed us from drugs. And so I was just so happy that I was allowed to be part of this promise, because my mom is gone. And a lot of people probably remember her as she was real tough, she just had the nickname Pistol Pete because she was just a tough cookie. So people remember her for that, but I want to honor her for the mother that I had that would sacrifice her freedom in order that her kids could be safe and healthy and whole. And I tell you, not one of my mother's children out of 6 kids, not a disability, not a learning delay, nothing. And I praise God and I thank God, because even in her addiction, even in her being a young woman going through some of the things that she went through, she had enough courage and love to put us first. And so I want to honor her, because I wouldn't be who I am
Right
today, and so I was a tough teenager for many different reasons. And I was telling my aunt the other day, like, if I could do anything over, I would lay at my mom's feet and tell her how much I love her and appreciate her, because you never know the struggles with womanhood, with motherhood, until you go through them on your own. And so I held her accountable for a lot of things that I didn't have anything to do with, that a lot of things that she had gone through that I wish I would have understood sooner. And so this promise was part of who my mom prayed for me to be before I was even born. And I thank her, and I'm just so grateful that she had enough love in her heart for not just her children, but for herself, and to say, I want to protect my kids. And so I dedicate this to her, for keeping that promise for myself and my siblings. And so I can't thank her enough.
Me neither, because your story, your strength speaks volumes. Just the woman that you have become and the lives that you get to change as an educator. Many of your students will go through different things in life. You have some things to share.
Yeah.
You've had some experiences that you can encourage them with, and you can speak life to some of those things that seems like they're dying internally. It seems like life is too hard and I don't know how I'm going to get through this. You have a story of overcoming. And it is amazing, and it's just funny sometimes because people think that they know you, and it's like you don't know the half of this backstory, baby. Don't never get it twisted.
That's right. Not haven't even scratched the surface. That's right. You're so right about that.
Yeah, but the one thing that I am grateful for is that today you can see how um the thorns of your stem has blossomed into a beautiful rose. So although it was thorny and it was painful, there is still some beauty at the end of this. The Lord has truly given you beauty for ashes. And so
Yes, he has.
I want you to just speak to the person who has lost their loved one. And it doesn't even have to be in numbers, but just that person that has recently, it's a new wound, it's a new loss, it's a new pain, a new hurt. What would you say to them in this season?
Um, just know that it is going to take some time. Don't rush your healing process. Um, feel what you have to feel. There were times where I yelled, screamed, cried cried out to God. But just know that take your time. Take your time to process. I would definitely say if you are feeling an overwhelming amount of grief to where you don't feel like you can function or go on, definitely seek some help. Counseling, grief counseling, and a lot of times you can go through your church. Many churches offer it. I would try not to blame yourself or others, because my dad used to always tell us, sure as you're born, you have a day that you're going to pass on. He would say that when we were little bitty kids, and I didn't understand it. And you used to annoy me that he would say that. I'm like, Daddy, why would you say that? He said, it's true. He said, we all have a time to go. And so even as a little kid, not on purpose, he was preparing me, but my dad used to say that all the time. And so, so try not to blame yourself or others. One thing I had to learn to do and to embrace who I had left. I went through this hurt and I was missing my mom, missing my brother, missing my dad. And God said, you still got your sisters. You still have your brothers. You have your son. You have friends that love you. So those people that I still, have in my life. So I had to learn to do that because there was a time that I pushed people away because I was in so much hurt and pain, and you can't do that, So definitely embrace, talk through your pain, and grow through what you're going through. Yeah. And so I had to grow through what I was going through, and that came through helping others. Like you said earlier, a lot of times you never know why God is giving you certain situations, but many people have called me and said, Ty, how did you get through it? Ty, my dad is sick. Or, hey, Ty, can you come over here because so-and-so's father just passed, so-and-so's mom just passed, and God has prepared me to be able to talk, to people about their loss or help them, through it. And focus forward and focus up. You're not going to stay in that place forever. Look up to God and depend on Him for your healing. When I had to literally partner with God because I couldn't do it by myself. And so when I realized, yes, I'm hurting, yes, I'm going through all of this pain, when I realized that I could pray, Lord, help my heart.
Yeah.
Heal my heart. Lord, help my sister. Help my brothers. When I learned that I could pray those prayers and partnered with God, that's when I began to heal. That's because I knew what to pray for. But if you're just going through it and going through it and, oh, Lord, help me, Lord, help me, He's going to help you. But I learned to make my prayers very specific. And so, and just know that it takes time. You know, I never would have thought that I would be here today to, number one, be able to smile, number two, be able to talk about it, you
Yeah.
know, and number three, even just share with anyone outside of my immediate circle, so to speak. But I mean, like the old, you know, the saying says, time heals all wounds, but you have to allow it to do so.
So let me tell you this, Tyisha, I
Mhm.
don't necessarily agree with time heals all wounds.
Mhm.
I believe
Okay.
that it's what you do with your time that
Mhm.
ultimately heals the hurt. Because
Absolutely.
you don't do anything,
Absolutely.
you soak in depression if you only,
Mhm.
like you said, focus forward. You know,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
talked about getting yourself some help. If you are not doing the necessary, you talked about how some of your healing came through helping other people. The
Yes.
Bible says we confess our sins to one another that we may be healed. You know, so the
Mhm.
things that we go through, the stuff that's ugly, we share those things. We're overcomers by the blood of the lamb and the word of our testimony.
Amen.
That we're not just overcomers, but we are sharing with others so that they too can overcome, right? So
Absolutely.
so I mean, God just did an amazing work. So yes, with time, things change, but they
Right.
don't always get better, depending
Mhm.
only on you and what you choose to do with that time.
Right, 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 right. And so, and you're absolutely right. And there all and there does need to be something that comes in between that, or you know, time does. But like you said, um, it depends on what you're doing with that time. Just like when people say, you know, money is the root to all evil. No, the word says the love of money is the
Right.
root to all evil. So, like you said, there has to be something that goes along with that time. And you're absolutely right. You know, for me, it wasn't just the time that healed the wound. It was healed the wounds. It was what I did with my time. So I thank you for that clarification, because it's true. Sometimes we get caught up in those cliches, just saying stuff, and but it is the process of the time and what you did and how you partner with God and get into His Word and trust His Word. And so, mm-hmm.
That is just so powerful though. And so I just want to say thank you again for being the strong and courageous, beautiful Tyisha Jenkins that you are, for
Oh, thank you.
trusting God with the process of becoming who you are,
Mm-hmm.
so that you could be able to stand for such a time as this, so that you could honor your mother with this promise,
Mm-hmm.
and all the
Yes.
world and many countries will get an opportunity to read your story.
Wow.
And though they may not know all of it now, you're on the podcast. So there will be
Mm-hmm.
others that will hear your story and they will know the love of a mother who had her own issues, but she loved her children and she was willing to
Absolutely.
be sacrificial for her children.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's the love of God. When we are
Mm-hmm.
sacrificial, that is a characteristic of God. And
Mm-hmm.
so most people are not sacrificial for others. They are very
Mm-hmm.
selfish, and so again, I say thank you. Before we leave, I would like for you to share your social media handles, so that if someone hears your story here at Navigating Life with Coach Lowe and they want to contact Tyisha, how
Mm-hmm.
do they contact you?
Social on Facebook, I am just Tyisha Jenkins on Facebook, and on Twitter and Instagram, you can follow me at Lady TJ220 on both of those platforms, Twitter and Instagram. Lady TJ at Lady TJ220.
All right.
So,
Awesome,
yes.
awesome, awesome.
Mhm.
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to tell you, thank you. Thank you for this awesome opportunity. Thank you for, I really enjoyed the pre-interview. You brought some things to the surface that I had never vocalized before. And it was very refreshing. It was very allowed some things to flow free. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time and your commitment to women and to people in general. And I'm just proud to be on this journey with you as a daughter of promise. So congratulations to you also as well. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, love. I absolutely agree. It has been a delight. It has been a blast. And I just look forward to doing so much more. There's still more to come. You know, this is not all of who we are. This is not it. You know, this is only a piece of the pie. And so God still has yet so much more that he wants to do in us and through us for his glory. And so I look forward to that. So I'll meet you back here again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Back here again, but I'll be to Houston too. So thank you, Tyisha Jenkins. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you back again soon. You have a good night and take care of you.
Thank you so much. You do the same.
All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Good night.
Bye-bye.